A rich man thought his money could buy anything, even dignity. But when he disrespected a struggling waitress, a stranger stood up and changed her life forever. Watch till the end and see how kindness can't be bought, but it can change everything. Like this video and subscribe to Kindness Stories for more true-to-heart tales. It was just past 10 p.m., and the little roadside diner in Austin, Texas, was nearly empty. Most customers had cleared out after the dinner rush, except for one booth at the back, a sharply dressed man with a Rolex on his wrist and arrogance in his smile. He sat like he owned the place, swirling his glass of whiskey like he was at a five-star restaurant instead of a humble eatery. And across the room, wiping down a table with trembling fingers, was 24-year-old Emily, exhausted, broke, and trying to keep it together. Emily had taken this job 3 months ago after dropping out of college. Her mother had fallen sick and the hospital bills wouldn't wait. So here she was, serving greasy burgers and refilling cheap coffee while praying her worn-out sneakers didn't fall apart. She didn't complain. She couldn't. She had no one to fall back on. Her dad had walked out when she was 10, and her mom now needed full-time care. Life didn't ask if she was ready. It just pushed. But tonight was worse than usual. The rich customer had been watching her, whispering crude things to the bartender, laughing loud enough that Emily caught the tone, even if not the words. She ignored him, kept wiping tables, heart thudding in her chest, just wishing for the shift to end. Then he snapped his fingers. "Hey, sweetheart," he slurred. "Why don't you come over here and sit on my lap? I'll tip you well. Real well." The entire diner fell quiet. The old man in the corner looked down. The dishwasher peeked out from the back. And Emily, frozen, cheeks burning, stood still. Her hands clenched the rag in her hand so hard her knuckles turned white. She looked up, eyes full of disbelief and silent rage. But she didn't speak. She couldn't afford to lose this job. Before she could even respond, someone stood up. A man who'd been sitting near the counter with a little girl by his side. You wouldn't have noticed him before. His clothes were plain, jeans faded, hair a little messy. But when he stood, the room shifted. He walked slowly toward the booth. Calm. Controlled. A slight limp in his right leg. His daughter, maybe 4 years old, looked up at him with sleepy eyes. He stopped at the rich man's table and said quietly, "She's not for sale." The rich man laughed like it was a joke. "Mind your business, cowboy." But the man didn't smile. "She's a person. Not an object. You don't get to treat people like that, money or not." Emily's throat tightened. She didn't know who this stranger was. But she wanted to cry. "Back off, man," the rich guy growled. "You have no idea who I am." The man's voice was even, his tone sharp enough to cut stone. "I don't care who you are. I teach my daughter that men protect, not prey. So if she's watching, and I let you disrespect a woman and walk away, what does that teach her?" Everyone was silent now. The cook stood behind the counter, watching with arms folded. The bartender had put the bottle down. The rich man scoffed and reached into his wallet. He pulled out a $100 bill and waved it like a flag. "Here. Go buy your daughter a real dinner." The stranger didn't even flinch. "She already has something real. A father with self-respect." He turned to Emily, who stood there, shaking. "You okay?" he asked softly. She nodded, eyes glossy. Then he looked at the manager and said, "If she loses this job because she didn't sit on that man's lap, I'll take this story to every news station in Texas." The manager, embarrassed, said nothing, but the rich customer finally got the message. He stood up, muttered something under his breath, and stormed out the door, money still on the table. Emily exhaled for the first time in what felt like hours. She looked at the man and whispered, "Thank you." He smiled. "Don't thank me. No one should have to go through that alone. What's your name?" "Ethan." "Emily," she said softly. Ethan bent down and picked up his daughter, who was falling asleep on the bench. "This is Grace." Emily waved. "She's beautiful." He nodded. "She's my reason for everything." Emily blinked away tears. That night, something inside her changed. The world hadn't always been kind to her, but maybe kindness still existed. As Ethan opened the door to leave, he looked back and said, "If you ever need help, I run a small cafe on East 9th. The pay's less greasy, and the people treat each other like human beings." And with that, he left. But he didn't leave her heart. The next morning, Emily stood outside a cozy little cafe on East 9th Street. The bell above the door jingled as she stepped inside, and the smell of warm cinnamon rolls and fresh brewed coffee welcomed her like a hug. Ethan looked up from the counter. He smiled, gently surprised. "You came," he said. She nodded. "I didn't even sleep last night. I kept thinking about what you said." He poured her a cup of coffee and slid it across the counter. "I meant every word." Grace peeked out from behind a stack of coloring books at the table near the window and waved. Emily waved back. "I'm not sure I can make the jump," Emily confessed. "It's hard to leave something, even a bad something, when it's the only thing keeping the lights on." Ethan sat across from her. "You don't owe anyone your dignity. Not for a paycheck. You deserve a place where people lift you up, not tear you down." Emily looked around. There were families here. Students. A man playing guitar in the corner. Laughter. Light. "You own this place?" she asked. "My brother and I started it after I lost my wife. We wanted a space where people feel safe. Seen." Emily felt her throat tighten. "Your wife?" He nodded. "Cancer. 2 years ago. Grace was only 2. I had no idea how to raise a daughter alone. But I knew one thing, I'd never let her grow up in a world where men like that rich customer go unchecked." Emily smiled sadly. "She's lucky to have you." "Maybe we're both lucky," Ethan replied, "because people like you remind me that strength comes in silence too. You didn't say a word last night, but the whole room felt it." "I was scared," she admitted. "And brave anyway." They talked for an hour. About life. About survival. About scraped knees and scraped hearts. Then Ethan looked her in the eye. "The offer still stands. You want to work here? I'll train you myself." Emily looked down at her chipped nails, her frayed uniform. Then she looked at Grace, giggling at the cat outside the window. And finally, she looked at Ethan. "Yes," she said. "Yes, I do." That day, a new chapter began. Emily didn't just find a new job, she found dignity. She found protection without expectations. She found family. Sometimes, kindness shows up in the quiet moments. In the stranger who speaks when you can't. in the father teaching his daughter that real men respect. And sometimes, it shows up with a cup of coffee, and a table for three. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Kindness Stories for more emotional, real-life tales that remind us humanity still lives on. One share can make someone feel seen. Thank you for watching.